What's up, everyone? This is your BGB resident blood babe, Zero Gravity, back on the belt for another movie review. All right, so at this point, you all know exactly how predictable I am, but today I'm going to be taking a little bit of a side quest, okay, away from my usual territory to talk to you about, yep, the American Society of Magical Negroes, which drops in theaters on Friday, March 15th. All right. This film, which was written and directed by comedian Kobi Libii, which is I think how you pronounce it, this had Black Twitter right and rowdy twice already, well before the film's actual release. And I feel like it was a bit of a cultural moment, which is why I was so curious to cover this one. So before I get into my feelings about the film, let me just give you a timeline crunch really quickly. So in November of last year, Focus Features had announced the film title and premise, describing it as, quote, a fresh satirical comedy about a young man called Aren, who's recruited into a secret society of magical Black people who dedicate their lives to cause the utmost importance, making white people's lives easier. Something that I, a person in the Black horror space, know far too well about the magical Negro trope. It's probably up there with the sacrificial Negro. They blend. We had this discussion before. This isn't what this video is about. So at this point, the internet just exploded with optimism. This is the premise that we haven't stopped thinking about since that Key and Peele skit on inner city Hogwarts or the magical Negro rehab skit from Astronomy Club. We were all just lit. It was a time, if you were on Twitter back then, around November of last year, you'll remember the memes. It was a fucking hoot. So a month later in December, when the trailer dropped, was also a moment. That moment, just Black Twitter just sucked its teeth in unison. It was really crazy. We knew the premise was going to be satire because we had got the little blurb when it was initially announced. But now with the visual, it wasn't really looking like what we were hoping for. Basically, there wasn't enough satire in our satire. And this was an assumption at the time, only enough satire for non-Black audiences to understand and digest. Okay, so now let's get into my feelings, okay? I'm going to keep it spoiler free and keep this about my personal feelings on the film because honestly, I would just love for you all to go and see this movie, yes, in the theater and form your own opinions. Of course, we can talk about it in the comments later. But regardless of how we feel about it, it is at the end of the day our responsibility to get out there and to support Black filmmakers and their Black projects, no matter how good they are or how good we think they are. You know, as a people, we've been systemically set back for decades, and many of us viewers have never been in a Universal Studios director's chair. So we should be critical and speak our truth, review it, talk about it online, tweet about it, talk to your friends about it, have discussions about it. But at the same time, we should really be supportive along the way so we can continue to progress and catch what we ultimately do deserve. And we already been knew that we deserve that a long time ago. So in this film, our lead is played by Justice Smith, who personally I love. I fell in love with him in Detective Pikachu. He gave us a great performance, and he's just cute as a button. I love him so much. Inducting him into the society is David Allen Grier, legend. I really don't know what else I can say about that. So this movie as a whole, it's not an objectively bad movie. So it's not a complete waste of your time if your standards are already super low for it. There are some great character moments, and that goes on all sides of the spectrum. We just have some really fun, quirky characters that will, without a doubt, make you laugh at some point. But as a whole, again, it will disappoint. I want to say 96 to 97% of Black audiences, especially if you were in that craze on Twitter at the time when the movie was announced and when the trailer officially dropped. I'd also like to note that the score was written by Michael Abels, who currently has his arms full of awards after scoring Jordan Peele's Nope. Yeah, so we can clap for that. We can definitely clap for that too. But as much as we wanted it to be, and as much as it could have been, this is not a FUBU movie. This is a for everyone, by us, I guess, kind of movie. And I truly believe that it just lost its drive somewhere in the filmmaking process. I don't think that this was always supposed to be the final outcome. So, the American Society of Magical Negroes says much more about the right to individual social ease, which, everybody can relate to, more than the right to the peace of Black lives as a whole, as a community. Um, I'm not saying we don't deserve those movies that everyone can relate to and everyone can take something to, but what I saw in the theater today was a Black project that was gentrified by white morals and for non-Black audiences, and I'm mega disappointed because the premise and the title promised something else that was more community and more culture based, and we barely got that. We got a little bit of it, and you'll see there is moments where you can soak it in, but not nearly enough that we are owed for a premise that is this damn strong. Okay, so what could have been strong and edgy satire ends up telling just a watered down message. We also have a change in course, which turns this film straight into a rom com with a romantic interest who is also a non-Black person. This was definitely the tipping point of the trailer when it dropped, and our assumptions about it were pretty spot on, in my opinion. It wasn't a bad thing to see, but it wasn't what we needed for this film. So, not that we need literal reparations, in our fantasy media, but white people learn no lessons, not a single lesson in this movie. It's not even as close as radical as it needed to be to please us, which, isn't the hardest thing in the world because it's been done before, especially with fantasy origins, like the skits that I've mentioned before. Um, in fact, the only party that really ever has a change of heart are the magical Negroes on their stance with dealing with white people. And just this film as a whole didn't move me, but this one instance should have been changed in the writer's room, and it actually did make me shift in my seat because, after all, this should have been a FUBU movie. We shouldn't have to learn anything about our relationship with white people. I think at this point we know everything that we know. And there's not much I could say else about that. You'll know it when you see it. So the main takeaway is this movie's fine. It has some pacing issues. It has great characters that make up for that. It's a movie that seems like it was passed down through a game of telephone while it was being made. So the American Society of Magical Negroes might not have started this way, and I really do hope that it didn't start this way. I couldn't even believe that the film started as, a film for everyone. That's why the premise had us hooked so easy, because this was obviously going to be a FUBU movie, but that's not how it ended up. It did end up molded to be easily digestible for white people, which is super ironic because that exact phrase and that exact premise, making yourself easily digestible for white people, is a key rule for the magicians within the society itself in the movie. So when you take a step back, it's kind of contradictory and a little hypocritical as well. Um, so I'm not mad at it. I'm just disappointed. I know that's the last thing that you want to hear from your parent, but I'm saying it right now. I think I would have a better time if this movie gave me something to be angry about, but I left the theater just disappointed. I just really wish that this movie had an ounce of audacity. I can't say that it doesn't have seasoning. It has a little bit in there, but audacity is something that it definitely is incredibly thirsty for. You know, it should sip like liquor, but it really just is a cup of milk. And milk isn't the worst thing in the world, but how can I be lit over a cup of milk when I expected liquor in my cup? You know what I mean? So I don't know how long we'll have to wait for a do-over, but I want to take a go at this concept again because this isn't what we needed at the end of the day. So that is as much emotional energy as I am willing to give this for today. Let's talk about it in the comments. Again, please pull up to the theater, support Black filmmakers, see this movie, make some noise about it online, be honest about how you feel. But you know, going out, going to the theater, purchasing a ticket is really all that you have to do to show that, hey, Black people spend money. We got some work to do. That's not our fault. It's just systemically, but this is the way that we do it. So again, go see it. Let's talk about it in the comments. Please try to keep the comments spoiler free, just in case you don't know who's passing through here. But I would love to talk about it. Let's do it. I've been Zero Gravity. Thank you so much for watching.